still have time for another, so I'm sorry, Zay, I know you wanted warm, but the Beggar Scholar is kind of cold and chilly, so you might want to wrap up in a blanket or something. This comes from the Han people as well. In ancient times, scholars crowded the examination halls to pass a test on the classics, history, martial arts, and so forth. Those who succeeded were awarded important official posts. Power, influence, wealth, and fame followed as a result. The preparation was arduous, and young scholars often went to an isolated place such as an abandoned temple or an ancient ruin to concentrate on their studies. During their confinement, many strange happenings occurred, sometimes because of mental imbalance, lack of nourishment, cold, or other deprivation. Tales about ghosts, foxes, fairies, and supernatural phenomena were inspired by the experiences of these scholars. Real or imaginary, the tales formed an inexhaustible reservoir for storytellers. The public examination system was abolished after the Republic was founded only 64 years ago, as of the time that this was collected. This folktale portrayed the exalted status of the scholar, his ambition to achieve a governmental post, and the ingratitude, avarice, and obsequious nature of one scholar in particular, who would stoop to anything to acquire a coveted official position. In a district near Nanking, there was once a beggar named Chang, who lived with his daughter in a broken-down hut. One day the whole air was thick with snow, and a cruel north wind howled. In spite of that, Chang went out as usual to beg while his daughter remained home. Looking out to see how bad the storm was, she was startled to see a dying man lying nearby. Pulling herself together, she ventured outside to look more closely. She noticed that his lips were quivering and his delicate features were those of a scholar. Moreover, he was still breathing, so with all the strength that she could muster, she dragged him into the hut. She started a fire and cooked some ginger broth to revive him. After a time he recovered and found that he was no longer lying in the snow, but a beautiful young woman was taking care of him. "Ee! How could I have got here?" he cried out. "I was frozen to death. Ah, you have saved my life. I'll be eternally grateful to you." "No need to thank me," she replied very simply. "Better drink some more broth quickly. You're still cold." While he was sipping the broth, her father returned, and his daughter explained what had happened. "What is your name? Whatever were you doing out in such a snowstorm?" He anxiously questioned the young man. "Old uncle, my name is Mo Kuei. I'm an orphan from a poor family. When my parents were alive, I studied the classics, but now I have to beg for a living. This heavy snow was so unexpected. With so little clothing and the bitterly cold wind, I lost control of myself and fell down. If not for your daughter, I would have perished from the cold and hunger. I'll never forget her kindness." Old Beggar Chang felt very sorry for him. Then, noting his fine features, the old man said, "Since you don't have any home, you can stay with us." Thereupon, Mo Kuei stayed in the old ramshackle hut and helped however he could. After a few months, the daughter and young man fell in love with each other, and the father consented to their marriage. It happened that there was to be a public examination that year. With his wife's encouragement, he resumed his studies and worked hard to prepare for his dream. He passed successfully, and so the old father-in-law also helped by giving him money for travel to the capital to participate in the final imperial examination. He again passed, being placed first. He was certainly fortunate. With these happy tidings, Mo Kuei returned to take his family to the capital. He hired a large boat and began the journey. In the beginning, the three people were happy. But one night, Mo Kuei began to speculate on the chances of rising more quickly in the official world and thought, "Since I'm an important official, it is most inappropriate to have a wife who is only a beggar's daughter." After deliberating for some time, he made up his mind and called to his wife, "Gracious lady," which was the typical way for an official to address his wife. Her own name was never used. See how bright the moon is. Will you please come out to the front of the boat to enjoy it?" Hearing her husband call, she hurried to the front of the boat. While they were enjoying the beauty of the river scene, Mo Quay gave her a big push and then cried out, "A calamity! Father-in-law!" Mo Quay pretended to be alarmed and began to stutter. She fell into the river." The old father rushed to the front and bent low, trying to reach his daughter. Now Mo Quay had already planned his next move, and with all his force shoved the old man into the water also. "It is hopeless to save them. Maybe we can think of a way later. Just row on," Mo Quay said to the boatman. So the boat went on. With a strong wind and swift current, he was able to reach the capital in a few days. Within a month after assuming his post, a matchmaker approached Mo Quay to say that the Minister of Justice would like to have him as a son-in-law. "Ah, a minister's daughter for my wife," Mo Quay thought, quite pleased. He readily agreed, and a date was set for the marriage. On the night of the ceremony, Mo Quay happily entered the marriage chamber where his new wife awaited him. Eager to see her, he walked toward the bride and lifted the red silk veil covering her face. He lowered his head to look at her, but jumped back after a glance and called out, "Ghost! Ghost!" He was really terrified. The Minister of Justice and old Beggar Chang entered the room. Seeing his previous father-in-law, Mo Quay realized that the bride was none other than his own wife. Knowing it was useless to keep the secret any longer, he knelt before the minister. "Why should you kneel in front of me?" the minister asked, feigning ignorance. "It is because I, a little fellow, lost my sanity and foolishly committed a crime. I was without compassion. I had no conscience." "Ah, so that is your plea. I can't make any final judgment. I'll have to present your case to the emperor tomorrow." "Honorable sir, please forgive me this time. I have worked so hard to become a scholar, studying by the light of a window in a cold room for over 10 years. Tears streamed down his face, for he knew that not only his official post would be lost, but his life. "A heartless person like you doesn't deserve to live," the minister angrily replied. "If my boat hadn't been following behind yours, and my boatman hadn't noticed the floating bodies and rescued them, you would have succeeded in killing both father and daughter. And what a death! How innocent they are! You became a high official, but you have an evil heart. You brought harm to the very people who saved your life. Where is your conscience? You want to marry the adopted daughter of a minister, but discard a beggar's daughter. You are a rascal without character, greedy for power and fame. Even after 10 years studying the rules of behavior toward the family, friends, and sovereign, you can commit such a crime. Huh!" he said with scorn as he walked out with old Beggar Chang. Turning to his wife, the young scholar humbly pleaded, "Oh, gracious lady, please forgive me." "Who is your gracious lady? Maid, hurry, bring me 3 wooden sticks." With that, she and the 2 servants began to beat him severely. "Yeah, gracious lady, I'm dying from pain. Be merciful," he cried. Beggar Chang entered, and seeing Mo Quay's condition, took pity on him. He placed his son-in-law on a bench and gave him a cup of tea. Yet he could not help scolding him and said, "You look like a decent person. Who would ever suspect you had no heart? You repaid gratitude with malice and wanted to destroy us both. You became an official, but your post actually depended on my money from begging. Without it, you would still be a beggar. Father-in-law, have pity on me. Save the life of your son-in-law," he pleaded. The old man became sympathetic and spoke to the minister, who intended to have the scholar punished. After a time, the minister agreed because the young scholar really seemed to regret what he had done. Only Mo Quay's wife remained adamant. Mo Quay prostrated himself before her, imploring forgiveness. Then his wife thought, Since I have saved his life once before, why should I insist on destroying him now? So, in turn, she too became compassionate and pardoned her husband. Mo Kuei became an unusually good, upright person, and thereafter lived quite happily with his family. And that is the end of that tale. And as it is almost 7 o'clock, and the next one is a little bit long, that is where I am going to call it for the night. So next time will be Iron Crutch Lee and Goldfinger Wang.